It's time for some injury updates in the middle of Jets training camp. Plus, Joe Tippmann, big improvement on the snapping. That's good to hear. Let's go.
I'm going to lose my gosh darn bananas. Boy Green Daily starts now. Zoinks!
I made it clear that my intention was to play, and my intention was to play for the New York Jets.
What is going on, everybody? Paul Hudson Jr., a.k.a. Boy Green. I'm the New York Jets digital reporter for Heavy.com. Welcome to Boy Green Daily, a daily New York Jets video show, also available wherever you get your podcasts. Right as we're getting the show going, guys, make sure you like the video and hit subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. We're also streaming live on the Heavy on Jets Facebook page. Shout out to Heavy for supporting the show, and Twitter at BoyGreen25. If you are on YouTube, the first link in the YouTube description is how you can join the Boy Green Coffee Club, which is a YouTube membership. It's only $2.99 a month, and you get a loyalty badge right next to you, plus all the perks, which include emojis and access to our Discord channel. The second link in our YouTube description is also something you may want to explore. It allows you to be gifted a membership. We have some very generous members on our channel that gift out memberships, but every person that just hops on YouTube, you are defaulted to not accept memberships. So if you click that second link, it'll allow you to opt into memberships. I've been doing a lot of research, a lot of homework on all the gifted memberships, and that's how you do so. I see a bunch of people that aren't green in my chat here, and if you'd like to opt in to the chance of winning the raffle of gifted memberships, make sure you click link number 2 down there, and that should open it up for you. And gifted memberships, by the way, are random, but they go to people that are more active on the channel. So the more you support the channel, the more you like the video, the more you subscribe, the more you comment, the more likely you are to receive a gifted membership, according to the YouTube overlord. So that's something I also just wanted to make sure that I put out there into the universe. So let's keep it growing. And I do believe we are now 13 members away from Jared B's emoji being unlocked. We had a nice surge yesterday on Boy Green Meets Woody yesterday at 3 o'clock. It was nice, awesome. All the memberships raining left and right. Plus, you guys may have noticed we got some Madden in last night. I played K-Brock. We got 2 games in. The first game, it started well enough, but then I got beat with a rusty wrench. And then the second one, I beat him with a rusty wrench. So it was spectacular and in some ways disturbing for whoever was watching that. So that's great. Yes, I just confirmed we are 13 members away from Jared B's emoji being unlocked, baby. So make sure you show your support. So what is up, everybody? We'll start off with this. We should be joined by a special guest here momentarily, and we'll let him in when that does indeed occur. But a couple of things right off the top. Let's go to Joe Tippmann's big improvement. And those are that's a direct quote from Nick Faria, our Jets reporter from the Pro Football Network and Athlon Sports. And that big improvement is in snapping. And I said it yesterday on Boy Green Meets Woody, and I'll say it again here on Boy Green Daily. If we're going to talk about every time Joe Tippmann has a horrible practice and he's snapping footballs to the planet Mars, I think it's important that we turn around and say the same thing when he's doing well. And apparently there was no big issues from Joe Tippmann, no snapping issues. So he's getting better. He's getting the yips under control. And that is comforting to see. Again, I told you I would start worrying if we start seeing this during joint practice, because that's like a quasi game environment, and then preseason games, if and when or how they distribute that. Again, we won't know exactly the preseason plan in terms of who the Jets are going to play until maybe Friday, and that's if Saleh comes up with it before the press conference on Friday. So that is TBD. Not sure if we'll know before Saturday. The game is on Saturday, between the New York Jets and the Washington Commanders. That one's set for noon. The practice today, the public practice version, was postponed. So for fans who had tickets to the practice that it was scheduled for today, there was expected inclement weather. If you do have a ticket, that will be honored, by the way, for the August 20th practice. So if they're making another public practice again, that's for August 20th. So if you do have a ticket for today's Jets practice to attend, there is no public version. They will instead do a walkthrough inside their beautiful facilities. So keep an eye out for that. If anyone, I don't know how many of our listeners, every once in a while I see them, they're like, oh man, I'm going to Jets training camp. Woo, can't wait, which is awesome. And I love it when you guys get an opportunity to go. But the joint practice is still on like Donkey Kong. That'll be coming up on Thursday. Joint practice against the Washington Commanders, which should have some extra juice, and we'll preview that coming up on Thursday, which I'm very much looking forward to. So again, when I will start worrying about the Joe Tippmann problem is when those issues persist and carry over, of course, to joint practices, quasi-game environment, and the preseason games. That's where I will start to worry. At this point, let's just let him go through. That's what practice is for. Practice is for making mistakes. We used to say that when we had young quarterbacks in operating at the quarterback position, let's see what they can get away with. And in the same token, that's mistakes in general. Let's get all the penalties out. Let's get all the turnovers out. Let's get all the mistakes out. You know, it won't be perfect in the season. There's going to be ups and downs, as Rodgers has said multiple times. But that's one I'd like to get corrected sooner rather than later, because there's nothing more crippling. There's nothing more backbreaking than you're operating with a drive. It's like 2nd and 5, and Joe Tippmann goes, whoop, and a ball flies overhead, and all of a sudden it's 3rd and 12, and you completely kill a drive. There is nothing more crippling than when that happens. So that is wildly encouraging from that perspective, quite frankly. To put the pieces in. So let's get a couple of injury updates here as we attempt to play Doctor. And, a lot of people were freaking out about a variety of things. So let's try to see what we can do here to give you guys some injury updates here. So Mike Williams, Robert Saleh spoke yesterday and was asked, when are we going to see Mike Williams? What's the update? He said, we'll see. But he says, I know he's got a couple of doctor visits coming up right now, but he's progressing. He reiterated that he's on the Breece Hall recovery timeline. That is, those were originally Saleh's words about Mike Williams, that he's on the Breece Hall timeline. And Rich Cimini asked, is he still on that timeline? Saleh said yes. That's important to know because today is August 7th. Breece Hall was activated off of the PUP list last year, on August 15th. We are 8 days away from the PUP activation of Breece Hall, which, again, fast 2023, August 15th. Now we're on August 7th. So we are technically a week away from potentially jumping into those waters where all of a sudden we're like, okay, maybe he's coming back at this point, which again dramatically changes the perception of the wide receiver room. Speaking of injuries, let's stay at wide receiver. So Mike Williams have a couple doctor visits. We don't know exactly when he's back, but according to Saleh, he's on the Breece Hall timeline, so it's shooting around the 15th, I would assume, which is like a weekish away. Hopefully he's ready in a week. Xavier Gipson returned to practice. And also, by the way, Nick Faria, who normally joins us every Wednesday here on the video program, we also have the audio-only version of my radio show. And you can find each of those interviews on the Boy Green Daily feed, wherever you find your podcast, for some bonus content if you enjoy that. So feel free. So Xavier Gipson is back. Love to see it. He's the starting slot receiver for this team right now. He's the starting return man, both at kick and punt, which is key for the New York Jets. Him coming back is excellent, and Saleh said he had a nice third down conversion. He is someone certainly to look forward to. So another key injury update there. We'll give you some more in a second. I want to jump into the comments here. David says, Paul, I've been enjoying your Madden live streams sometimes. And I'll say yesterday, the frustrating thing in that first game I was playing K-Brock, you guys can rewatch it. I've turned down the Madden music, which I think was causing copyright issues, which is why some of you haven't been able to rewatch the stream later if you went back to see it. In game number 1, I got off to a quick lead. It was like 14-0 or 14-7 or something. I can't remember what it was. But I'm feeling good. Everything's going good. In obvious punting situations, I punted. In his obvious punting situations, he didn't. It'd be like 4th and 9. He's like, F it, I'll go for it from my own 20. 4th and 14, F it, I'll go for it from my own 30 or whatever. And when someone operates, in my opinion, from that Madden perspective, it's YOLO. You're playing with an extra down that I'm not playing with. So to me, I should have just decided And sometimes that can hurt you. In the second game, I was able to get on top of K-Brock there, and he came back and made a one-score game, and I was able to flex again. Sometimes when you're that aggressive, it can bite you, and it certainly did in that second game for K-Brock. And I try to play, by the way, when I do these Madden live streams, I try to play you guys because I think it's more fun than me playing some random opponent. So again, if you guys ever want to add me on the PS5, BoyGreen25. Although I guess I should make this clear, since apparently this wasn't clear, that I'm on PS5 and I'm playing the latest edition of Madden. Yesterday, speaking of David, BMac, your guys' favorite guy, right? BMac, our friggin' guy, BMac. Let's put up his emoji. Yes, there it is. BMac, our guy, right? He says, "Paul, you suck it, man." I'm like, "Oh, okay. Why don't you slide in, man? I'll play you right now." And then BMac says on the live stream last night, I've got like Madden 2009, 2017. I'm like, what is this? What is this? What am I going to blow on a Nintendo 64 cartridge? You're going to be playing GameCube? Like, what are we talking about here, man? What in God's green earth? So yeah, again, latest Madden is what I play. Not Madden 17, not Madden 14, not Madden whatever the hell you're talking about. It's PS5 and then the latest Madden. And then the new Madden comes out next week. So hopefully we could get on that. So, but I appreciate, David, that you've been enjoying them. It's just another additional content. I'm a big Madden guy, also a college football 25 guy. I've been playing that as well. I don't get a lot of chance to play because I'm working all the time, but if Madden streams or College Football 25 streams or anything of that nature are going to happen, it's going to be in the evening. So just keep an eye out whenever that's going to go on live. And I would love it. David says, breakout NFL Blitz on the 64. I have that. That cartridge right now, I believe, is in the 64 in my living room. I love NFL Blitz. That'd be amazing. NFL Blitz. And yes, we'll get back into some of that Madden chatter in a second. But I do want to go to Jared B's comment because, yes, this is something that was troubling me, if I was to pick a word. So Jared B says on our YouTube channel, because I know we have audio-only listeners that aren't seeing anything, they're just listening. Jared B says, Paul, I love how the media is saying Tyron Smith is injured instead of being rested for tightness. Yes, and in general, he has veteran rest days that are built in. And Sal attempted to explain that at the press conference this week and say, hey, he's got a plan. I'm not, I'm privy to the plan, but I don't remember exactly. The doctors say, and the doctors and the Jets team spoke about a plan with the Dallas Cowboys, and they said, okay, every Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Sunday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Monday, and then they laid it all out and said, Tyron's going to get a rest day here, here, here. He's going to practice here. He's going to do this here. And that plan last year maximized the Tyron Smith experience. So the Jets would be silly not to listen and not to attempt to operate with what the Dallas Cowboys did to give Tyron Smith a healthy season. So they'd be silly not to listen. But yeah, the thing that really just kind of throws me off is that, like, so there was I believe it was Brian Costello tweeted out that, Tyron Smith held out of team drills. And then Connor Hughes said, oh, this is troubling. And he said it's troubling, and I believe he was at Giants camp yesterday. And then everyone's freaking out or everyone's, like, jumping on Connor. I just don't understand that. Yeah. Sauer said he had some level of tightness, so he didn't participate in the scrimmage over the weekend. He didn't participate in that first game, the first preseason practice earlier this week. Like, I just think people are freaking out. It's August 7th. Like, whoa, let's lay it in. There's a plan here for Tyron Smith. There's a plan. And I'm worried zip and pip. People ask what you're worried about, like, Joe Tippmann snapping, where are you worried? Haason Reddick situation, where are you worried? Injuries, where are you worried? Like, Tyron Smith, I'm worried zip and pip. Zero. Nada. Nothing. Absolute nothing. He's a pro's pro. Tyron Smith is, he loves getting into work. He's been with the team the entire offseason. His family's back in Dallas, as I heard from Zach Rosenblatt's piece. His family's not coming up here during this Jets journey. And Tyron Smith has a plan. So I'm worried about it. Not at all. And also, the other reason that is somewhat comforting, that if Tyron Smith is out, you have Olu Fashanu. So any nonsense about Tyron Smith and this or that by media-driven narratives and storyline, I don't understand at all. Because Robert Saleh has been abundantly clear that there is a plan and we're operating to the plan. He has pre-scheduled days that are off and pre-scheduled days which are lighter and pre-scheduled days that are heavier. Okay? Sometimes you got a heavy practice and they're banging around, and then they follow it up with light practices. Again, I don't have the schedule. Saleh must have forgot to CC me on that email, but I don't know exactly the plan, but I know there is a plan, and that's comforting. Jared B says, yeah, there are articles saying he's injured, which is ridiculous. Tightness. If he's feeling tightness, the Jets are being overly precautious. Like, okay, okay. You're feeling tightness? Okay. Let's look at the plan. Okay, you were supposed to be off anyway, or whatever they're doing. He's stiff, not injured, MFC says. Yeah. Not hurt. They're sensing something. That's what a good team's supposed to do. Listen to your players. Hey, man, I woke up this morning. My leg, my this, my that. I don't know. Just, I don't buy it. So, yeah, put that aside. Tyron Smith, just dandy. Brandon, another member of Board Green Coffee Club. I'll smoke anyone on NFL Extreme 2 if you can find a PS1. I don't know if I still have my PS1. I know I got my PS5. I have my PS4. PS3 is probably around here somewhere. I think I have a PS2 Slim. I used to have the bulky PS2. My PS1 may be somewhere. I got my GameCube still out. I got my 64 out. Yeah, I've got some games out, but I don't get to play them all that sometimes. K-Brock, I need some new challengers in Madden. Oh, boy. Hey, I'm cool continuing to play it, man. And also, I played King Lowski that one time. I beat him in the first game. Yeah. We are talking about practice, Terrence. Snapgate is over. It seems like it, but we'll keep an eye out. Gilbert Gonzalez is asking about it on YouTube. We'll see if that is indeed the case. Yeah, Madden last night was exciting. I appreciate that, Terrence. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. And yes, everybody, hit that like button, hit subscribe. Yeah, we'll see if we're getting Nick in. I maybe not. Maybe with the practice or something, we're not getting Nick today. So if not, it's okay. We can operate solo. GameCube for the win. Yeah, the GameCube was a wonderful, absolute wonderful experience. I love GameCube. Let's go to David here, an Asmaniac, also part of the Boy Green Coffee Club. BG, Mina Kimes had Ryan Clark on her show in the past, and I ranked the Jets way down the list of teams, into the mid-teams, so I remember correctly. Checked, ranked 12th. Yeah, so Mina did this show over the offseason called the Power Hour. She brought different analysts on, and they did, so I want to make it fair because like Ryan Clark did have a chance. Like I saw that episode that you're referencing. Her Power Hour worked differently. It wasn't like Mina Kimes said, hey, Ryan Clark, where do you rank the best teams in the NFL? She did 1v1, and then you swiped left or you swiped right. So she started off every episode with Chiefs, 49ers. Who's better? Chiefs. Okay, who's better? 49ers, Lions. 49ers. Okay, who's better? Lions, this. And he went 2, and just kept going. And then eventually, the Jets, the best they could have been is like 10th or 11th, because that's the first time Mina brought him up to Ryan. So the Jets couldn't have come up earlier by nature. Although Ryan Clark also said in his answer, this is the appropriate place for them to be ranked. So I assume that would have worked out anyway. Okay, Nick is about to jump on. He just said they had a power outage issue last night. So no worries. So we'll have Nick Faria on here in just a second. But to finish the point here on from David, to finish the point here, is I believe they did have him ranked 12th, and I believe he had the first chance to put him at 10 or 11. It had to be 11 because I remember vividly him saying Dallas Cowboys over Jets. And then the next one, I think it was like Jets Browns or Jets Dolphins or something, and he gave him the Jets. So it's fine. People can put them wherever the hell they want as far as I'm concerned. And yes, K-Brock, our games are always fun. It's always a good time, so I appreciate you, man. Thank you. Yeah, so go ahead, hit me up on the Madden. That is, of course, Boy Green 25. We keep it easy peasy, lemon squeezy. All right, let's get to our phone lines because our special guest is joining us, baby. Nick Faria, the Pro Football Network, Athlon Sports. We love it. Let's bring him here on the show from his home office. What's up, Nick?
Hey, guys. Apologies for the lateness. We had lost power last night because of the storm.
Yeah.
So alarm, phone, nothing was working. So
that's okay. Is everybody okay?
Last couple minutes.
Everyone's
good.
Okay. Good. That's the most important thing. So, no, we're glad to have you. And yes, we mentioned it earlier in the show that the Jets ended up canceling the public portion of this practice today. They're going to be hosting a walkthrough style inside their facilities for today's practice. So, yes, David Aaron says, whoa. Nick got a tan. Yeah, it's a sun kiss. Look at that. Look at that beautiful skin. Yeah, great epidermis.
This has been the standard for me all my life. I've always been a little darker.
See, there you go. So he's got born with the tan. God checked that one off the bucket list when he cranked out Nick Faria. So terrific, Nick. Let me ask you this because I'm seeing comments about it. We haven't talked about it yet here on the show. The big news last night that Adam Schefter tweeted out and Mike Reese sort of follow-up report. So Brandon Aiyuk is still hanging out in the mix with all this craziness, but it appears the New England Patriots are opting out of, at least publicly. I don't know if that could be some sort of a ploy or something, but it appears they're opting out of the Brandon Aiyuk sweepstakes. There was conversations that Washington Commanders were in it, the Pittsburgh Steelers were in it, and more specifically, NBC reported that Cleveland and New England had the framework of everything set up in terms of a trade. Now just figure out a contract with Aiyuk. And now all of a sudden, randomly out of nowhere, the Patriots are like, all right, we're out. We're going to focus on our young guys and all this crap. Give us your insight on that. What's your take?
Yeah, so essentially what it means is Aiyuk didn't want to go there.
Okay.
And the Patriots were not going to wait for him to change his mind. They have a lot of cap space. They have the cap space to give him the kind of contract he wants and then some. They can give him $30 million if he wanted it. But at the same time, they're not ready to pay a receiver $30 million. They're still rebuilding the offensive line. They don't know what they have at quarterback. They're still trying to figure out what's going on in the defense. So there's a lot of holes on this team right now where paying a wide receiver $30 million would be kind of foolish. It's objectively speaking, it would be foolish to pay a receiver when you don't know what you have at quarterback. That's the next move after. But then afterwards, it's okay. If we believe in Drake May and we believe that he will be the future, we want to pair him with a receiver as soon as possible. So Aiyuk, in that regard, made sense. But there's two to tango here. He has to agree to any particular trade that's going on. And that's where the standoff was. And the Patriots finally understood, hey, we're not going to change his mind. We might as well just wait for next season when another receiver becomes available at any particular point and see if we can grab one there, whether it be through free agency, a trade, or the draft. But this was clearly an Aiyuk thing. This was not a Patriot saying, too rich for my blood. This is more of Aiyuk saying, I'm not going to Foxborough.
I see. Now, I don't know if we have this level of detail, but with all these teams in the mix, they're all different. Like, you have Pittsburgh, you have Washington, you had New England, who these teams seem to be in different stages of football. It's different stages of life. And I'm curious for Brandon Aiyuk, because it seems like, at least from the reports from the NBC side, that the Patriots satisfying of the 49ers, okay, it seems like that part was figured out. Cleveland satisfying the 49ers, that part seemed all right. It was just the money. So I'm curious, like, it doesn't seem like for Brandon Aiyuk, it's a standard, okay, I want to be paid $30 million a year for 4 years, and whoever does that first gets it. It seems like it adjusts. If I'm playing for the Patriots and they suck, maybe the number, instead of being here, is here. But if I get to play for a contender and I make a bag of money, okay, maybe instead of $35 million a year, I'll take 30. Is that kind of the appropriate sense, depending on who the team is?
That's the standard. Yeah, it really comes down to, I think he'll take a little bit less if he were to go to Pittsburgh, which I think is the prevailing theory right now because he loves Tomlin. I've heard rumors and reports that Tomlin's kind of working behind the scenes and saying, don't do anything yet. Don't agree here. We'll figure this out. The Steelers don't have as much cap space as teams like Cleveland, teams like New England do. But Tomlin's relationship with Aiyuk is the driving force here. And I think that's what a lot of people are waiting on to see if San Francisco will budge on a particular deal, because any contract that's going to be drawn up with Aiyuk, there's going to have to be players that are added to this deal on Pittsburgh's side to send to San Francisco. One person I heard said Dan Morgan, a linebacker, one of the offensive linemen as well. So if that's the case, and that is something that works and something that is pushed, and San Francisco finally relents, then the Steelers will have the cap space to pay Aiyuk what his worth is and what he wants is. But there's a lot of moving parts right now. If Washington were to come in and say, screw it, we're grabbing him, I think it's going to be really easy to see Aiyuk become a Commander if Pittsburgh can't get the 49ers to budge. And I think a second-round pick is probably going to do it. I think right now the 49ers, the only thing they're waiting on is for Pittsburgh to just move their third to a second, and then we're moving forward.
Interesting. Okay, so what's your sense right now? Because there's a lot of hubbub, obviously, happening right now with this Aiyuk thing. Do you think he's a member of a different organization here in the near future, or is he a 49er?
Oh, no, he's gone. I thought he was gone 2 months ago on draft night. I thought the Jets, from people that I heard in the organization, they were like, hey, they're trying something. They're trying to move up. They're in the open market for a receiver. And it obviously didn't work out on draft day, but they also traded for Malachi Corley, who a lot of people say could become the Aiyuk and the Deebo Samuel. Sure. So you didn't really have to worry about that. So to me, the only question was when and to which team, not if, because the 49ers can't pay him. They can't pay him and Brock Purdy and Deebo and Trent Williams, who, by the way, is still holding out from the team because he wants a new contract. So they have to pick and choose, and every well-run organization will choose the left tackle to pay over a second wide receiver that, yes, is elite, but also replaceable. Like this is a Kyle Shanahan offense. You can replace these kind of guys, every other day. So I think if you're the 49ers, you're definitely going to trade them before the start of the season, which is great news for a team like the Jets because you don't have to play them. And you can really use your resources on defense to use Sauce Gardner on potentially Deebo. You could use Gardner on George Kittle. You can have everyone focused on Christian McCaffrey, but even then he's hurt. I think the line in week one is going to change very, very quickly because the 49ers could look a lot different on opening night.
And that's exactly where I wanted to go because everyone talks about, the Jets' problems. It's raining piss fire over here. Haason Reddick and this and that and this and that. But now you start putting a fine-tooth comb, that's a tongue twister, through this, okay? Brandon Aiyuk, he's a dynamic football player. Suddenly, what the 49ers shipping him off, even if they want some veteran receiver in return, what are we talking about? Kendrick Bourne from New England, even though New England's now out, but like some mid-level receiver. Like, I don't anticipate Pittsburgh giving up George Pickens. I don't anticipate Cleveland giving up one of Jerry Jeudy, who they just acquired, or Amari Cooper on all of this. So unless I'm surprised and they get someone of that caliber with draft picks, maybe it's a different conversation. But you have Aiyuk, the Trent Williams thing, he's not in camp. Christian McCaffrey apparently just suffered a calf strain and is going to be out for the entire preseason. And we are, by the way, for folks counting at home, a month and 2 days away from the season opener. That's how close we are to the sun. And a calf strain, that's something that can linger. All of a sudden, the mighty NFC champion San Francisco 49ers don't appear as invincible anymore, Nick Faria.
I'd probably be the only one to say that I couldn't be happier for Jet fans in this instance, mostly because I need the 49ers to be bad next year. I would really, really love if I don't have to deal with the 49ers again in my division, in my conference, my overall side of the coin, because I'm just sick of them. I'm sick of everything about them, the bravado, everything else. So listen, if McCaffrey's hurt, if Aiyuk's gone, and that means Philadelphia is rolling into San Francisco in a playoff game significantly better, then I will absolutely take that. So I'm hoping along those lines as well. But to me, week one, I always thought this was the game that Jet fans shouldn't be too concerned about because whether it's a win, whether it's a loss, this is your toughest opponent that you're going to play all year. Maybe the Houston Texans come close to it, but the way the 49ers play defense, the way they roll on offense, this was the kind of game where you really looked at it and said, hey, if we can win, this is a message to the rest of the NFL. This isn't beating Buffalo with Zach Wilson at quarterback. This is announcing yourself as an AFC power who can compete with the Chiefs for a Super Bowl. So the fact that San Francisco is hobbled going into this game, I think, is a massive, massive help for the Jets. And I think it certainly puts them in a position to win that game as well.
I'm curious your take here. So for a lot of the offseason, of course, because we have opening lines, because we're gambling, freaks, the 49ers have been basically a touchdown favorite over the Jets for the last couple of months, 6.5, 7. They've been kind of bouncing around here or there. And if all of these issues persist of Trent Williams and Christian McCaffrey and Brandon Aiyuk and the 49ers are out of these guys, maybe the pressure shifts because the pressure has been all on the 49ers. They're the one that's having the home opener. They're the one that's the touchdown favorite. The Jets are coming in, and people across the league apparently were expecting them to lose. If all of a sudden they have some of these lesser pieces, a lot of pressure then, in theory, would turn to the Jets, say, well, you got to take advantage of this wounded animal here because you have all these other games that are, in theory, perceivable, winnable, eminently winnable games with Titans and Patriots and Broncos and Vikings and all these other things. Do you buy that potential pressure change, or is that a bunch of malarkey?
I think it's a bunch of malarkey.
Okay.
Mostly because, again, the Jets went 7-10 last year.
Yeah, right.
They didn't go to the Super Bowl and play in overtime in that game, and a lot of ways, Brock Purdy's looking for a new deal. He expects to be one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL. They still have Deebo Samuel. They still have the offensive genius in Kyle Shanahan, who everyone in NFL circles says is the best offensive play caller in football. I think he's very overrated for what he's done and for the players he has. So when you look at the 49ers team, it's, no, you should be able to win this game because you're the 49ers. Mm-hmm. You talk the big game. You have Deebo Samuel coming out after every loss and saying, no, we're still the best team. Screw these guys. I'm better than everyone. They have Trent Williams, who every time they lose, he picks a fight with a player and gets ejected. Right. Look at the tape. That's all I'm saying. Look at the tape. This guy picks a fight every time they're about to lose a game. It's absolutely incredible. So add it all up, and this is a team that knows they're great, is going to demand other teams to believe that they're great. And if they don't, and you're beating them, they're going to try to change the rules a little bit to do it. So I look at the 49ers as a team. The pressure's still on them because they're the guys that haven't won a title in this 5-year run where they've gone to 2 Super Bowls. That's on them. So it's not the Jets that have more pressure because they need to beat the 49ers. It's the 49ers saying, hey, this is a team that you should roll because you're the 49ers. Go figure it out.
100%. Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. Okay, we're speaking here with Nick Faria, our Jets reporter here from Athlon Sports and the Pro Football Network, talking all things green and white, baby. And since we're talking about their problems, I am contractually obligated. I just have to follow the sheet here. Nick, Haason Reddick. Update, 2+ weeks. I think I did the math yesterday. We're just under $1.5 million in fines and everything else that includes. Where are we at with Haason Reddick?
Nothing.
I see.
No, that's it's all the joking. It's just no update because it really is two sides on different sides of the island and saying this is a lot. And Reddick wants the money immediately for this year. The Jets are unwilling and unable to give it to him. The Jets are unwilling and unable to create cap space right now. And they refuse to negotiate with a player that's not there. And Reddick says, I'm not going to be there, slip on a banana peel, and then get released because I hurt my back. That's just not going to happen. So there's a lack of trust on both sides. And I think eventually it will come together. I'm not concerned about if they get a deal done. It's more just a matter of when. Is it going to be a week before the season? I always circled week 1 of the preseason as a factor of when this deal could potentially be done. And I still think that that's a possibility, but I also think that maybe this goes to the 2nd and 3rd week now, and the Jets are just saying, hey, we'll buy our time with him and let him figure out what he wants to do.
All right, let me ask you this, because I've had some people ask, and if this is ridiculous, again, a bunch of malaki is the word choice we've been picking for certain topics of conversation. the Jets trading Haason Reddick in the same offseason that in which they did trade for him initially, what percentage chance would you give to that they just say, okay, I'm done with this. We're going to figure it out. We're going to trade him to Guatemala and get whatever we can, and then we're just going to sign another pass rusher or figure out a different plan because they're so frustrated with the situation. What are the chances you'd put of that happening?
0%.
Okay.
0%, because it would look horrific.
Oh yeah.
On the Jets, and it would essentially become, okay, fans are upset with Haason Reddick for not showing up and everything else. That would turn instantly if the Jets were to cut bait and say, we're not dealing with this. Now, I think Reddick has lost some leverage, which is going to help in negotiations because they need him. They don't really need him anymore. McDonald's looked great. Jermaine Johnson's looked great. The defensive line has dominated the last couple of days of practice. And it shows that this team is going to be fine without him. So ultimately, I look at the perspective of that and say, okay, Reddick will probably come in, realize that he has to show up before anything else. But the Jets aren't trading him because it would be the embarrassment of embarrassments for a front office to make a trade for an all-pro pass rusher, not give him the deal he wants, know that he was looking for a deal you weren't willing to give, still make the trade, get surprised he didn't show up, and then trade him 2 months later. Like it would be a catastrophe of epic proportions.
Wow. Yeah, and well said, because I've just heard, because again, the Jets have been joke fodder for people with the Haason Reddick thing, but whether in the division or just in the NFL, because I saw some Cardinals reporters, they were saying, oh, well, one of our pass rushers just went down. I believe it's BJ Ojulari's brother from the Giants. He just went down. Z, so it's BJ. Azeez Ojulari's on the Giants. BJ is the one in Arizona. He just got hurt, unfortunately, and is out for the season. And Arizona said, oh, we could just go get Haason Reddick from the Jets. We've got the money, and those idiots will pay the I'm trying to remember the direct verbatim from social media. The Jets will pay the quote-unquote dumb tax for being an idiot with the Haason Reddick situation, and they will trade him to us for less than they acquired him for from the Eagles, and just basically eat an egg on their face because of the situation. I just read that when there's just no way that the Jets, the headlines...
First off, how do we know that the Cardinals are actually going to use Haason Reddick the right way this time? They already had him once. So the egg on the face still is on the Cardinals because they tried to use him as an inside linebacker for 3 years and then realized, oh, he can rush the passer. Let's try him. Let's try him in that role. Puts up 11 sacks, and they say, you know what? We don't need a pass rusher, so we'll just let him walk to Carolina. So they're still the guys. The Jets look bad here. Reddick looks bad. Both sides don't really look great. But they don't look like the team that undervalued him by playing him at a position where he was not going to be successful.
Like, think about that for a second, that they drafted this guy, and people are going, boy, bust, what are you going to do? And he leaves and becomes one of the most dynamic pass rushers in the NFL. Oof.
That doesn't look good on you. And yes, Jonathan Gannon being there will change it, and they'll be like, yeah, but that was a different coach. And, now he had a great season with Gannon. And then my response to that is very simply, so if you kept him on the roster, you wouldn't have this problem. Mm-hmm. You'd be able to use him in this instance. So there's always fans, there's always people that want to get excited about a free agent or a trade. Listen, I'm one of them. Eagle fans go crazy whenever there's a player on the trade block because Howie Roseman can and will make any deal under the sun. Justin Simmons is still out there. I'm willing to bet that he's going to become an Eagle within like a week and a half. It's just what they do. But not all teams are like that. And the Cardinals, when you have a player that is really good and you let him walk for nothing, that's a reflection on you. And you can't just say, oh, we'll make fun of this other team because they didn't pay this guy, even though we were the first ones that didn't.
Yeah, I know. Lame. But I'm good. I thought that would be the answer, but since I heard some of that hubbub on social media, it was certainly worth addressing. Let's get to a couple of points here. Again, I mentioned at the beginning of the show, if we're going to, speaking of making fun of people, if we're going to make fun of Tippmann on all these bad practices and LOL snaps, I think we have to turn around and make sure we give praise and love when there's a good practice. And the words you used was big improvement from Joe Tippmann and the snapping yesterday. What can you tell us?
if he puts forth another day without any snapping issues like yesterday, I think these concerns are dead in the water, and I think we can move on. I
Okay.
really do, because yesterday was fine. Yeah, there weren't any bad snaps. There weren't any really high ones. It really looked like a well-oiled machine. And yes, the offensive line got killed in practice yesterday. And if I were to tease something, this Jets defense could look a lot different than in years past under Robert Saleh, because they're doing some new things that even Aaron Rodgers was confused with. I can't really say it publicly and explain it because I don't want to get my credential revoked, but they look different. And there's some interesting things that they're showing out there that have confused even Aaron Rodgers. So the offensive line got beat yesterday and got beat pretty bad. But the fact that the snaps were so much better than they have been, obviously a sign that everything's going to be okay.
Yeah, actually, let's do a quick follow-up on that, because I think some Jet fans don't understand that. They say, "Hey, Nick Faria, why aren't you recording a video of every moment of Jets practice?" There are rules and obligations that you guys have to abide by. The Jets tell you when you're allowed, when it's video recording time, pull out the phones. You can record what you like here. Okay, put them away. You can't do this here, and things of that nature. I know it on a lower level because we have some of those restrictions here in Syracuse with pro days and football practices and things, that they have things very restricted here at the collegiate level as well. But you just explain that for people, because the same thing with what you're saying you can't say, but it's exciting. But you're also, to the same thing, all media members are kind of held to that same standard.
It's so essentially it comes down to this. If we were to report something and show a video of a new play, teams can look at that and say, oh, we're going to prepare for this. We're going to scout for this. And now the competitive advantage is gone. So the Jets, to me, are actually one of the more stricter teams that I've covered in terms of you can't film, and you also can't describe a play via Twitter. So a lot of times, if a receiver is running a particular route and the Jets want to use the reverse, so whatever
Sure.
outlandish thing happens,
right. Yeah.
we can't describe it. We can just say the basis of the play. Trick play the Jets are working on. This happened. It looked really cool. That kind of thing. And for the defense, this player is looking really good. This player made this play, but we can't specifically say where he was on the field or what the Jets were looking like on defense. So yes, we can't really report, and this is NFL guidelines for everyone. So I know Jet fans get really angry when they can't see everything, which is why I try to describe everything as basic as possible. But it really comes down to the rules and the competitive balance for teams, because the Jets want to be able to have this. And yeah, some teams allow reporters to film. I know the Giants do. I know Philadelphia has had a penchant for doing it, but they all have also strict rules of saying, during team periods, we're cameras down. That's normally the standard. So we can only describe a particular play. So when I say that the Jets defense looks a little different, I can't specifically say what it is, but they look that they're trying some new things out. Like they were teasing that earlier in camp. They were teasing that before in OTAs. You're starting to see that a little bit now.
Again, that's great to explain, because we assume a lot, and people just go, "Oh, that's weird. Why does Nick not do that?" It's good to kind of spread and understand that. Let's get to a couple of injury updates if we can. We heard from Saleh yesterday and Mike Williams. He's got some doctor's visits scheduled. Breece Hall timeline. Interpret this for us. Also, a sports reporter and translator should be added here. Nick Faria, to your under headline here under your name. What's the translation here? When are we seeing Mike Williams?
I still think you're going to see him a couple weeks, maybe a week before the regular season, but to expect him to be 100% at the start is not going to happen. If that was going to happen, they already would have put him out on the field. So, he's got a couple doctor's appointments to make sure that he's 100% ready for contact. All of that is within the realm of what Breece Hall had to deal with. And then we could potentially see him working on some individual drills, working on some team drills, those kind of things. I would still say, and I said this before, I think I said this yesterday with you, Paul, on your radio show, where I was saying he'll probably get 10, 15 plays on opening day, but he's not going to be the number one, number two receiver coming out onto the field every single snap. They're going to be judicious in how they use him. Breece Hall was ahead of the curve, and they still think that he's on the timeline of He's going to practice at this point. He's going to play at this point, and we're going to ease him into games. That's pretty much what's going to happen, but he's just not as far ahead as Breece Hall was. Hall was ready to go by this point last year, and it was very, very obvious. So ultimately, I think that's where we're at now with Williams.
Okay, let's go to another player. And this was a point of conversation before you hopped on earlier about Tyron Smith. There's been some people that reported that Tyron Smith is hurt and he's battling through things. And then Salah said tightness. And now there's confusion in the social media streets of what's going on with Tyron Smith. Can you provide some clarity there?
Yeah, his off day in team drills did not have anything to do with the back injury. And I will preface to say this guy's got chronic back issues. So anyone who's hearing, oh, he missed a practice because of a back tightness, that's not necessarily a problem. He didn't practice every Wednesday last year. Jet fans should not be concerned about what practices Tyron Smith misses. I'm going to put that out there right now. In camp, in the regular season, this is what he does. This is what they need to do to keep him healthy for as many games as they possibly can. It's also why they drafted Olu Fashanu instead of taking Brock Bowers with the 11th overall pick. So you look at what the Jets are trying to do with him. They're trying to keep him as healthy as possible. This was part of the schedule for him right away. So it's not like it had anything to do with the back injury. The back injury happened and he missed practice on Monday. On Tuesday, he had a scheduled off day from team anyway. So it's just a little bit of an extra work that he doesn't have to worry about.
Interesting. Okay, because like I said, a lot of people started freaking out immediately, and he had the history, so to speak, heading in, which, like I said, sometimes bothered a lot of people potentially. Some good news. Xavier Gipson, blessed be he, returned. It was unclear when that was going to happen. He was back yesterday. Was he doing everything yesterday, and how did he look in your mind?
Yeah, he was doing everything, and he looked really good in team too. And the Jets are very fortunate to have Gipson because that means they don't have to force feed Malachi Corley possessions and force him onto the field when he's not ready. He's looked the part of a quality slot receiver, an undersized slot receiver like Edelman, Wes Welker, and Amendola. And we've seen franchise quarterbacks, Hall of Fame quarterbacks, dominate with those kind of players over the middle of the field and along the sideline. I think Rodgers is going to have his guy here that'll be able to do that with Corley on the field as well.
All right, so that's good to know there on X. By the way, we have now opened up the phone line, so feel free. You guys can call into the show. There's a pinned comment on youtube.com/boygreen25. Also, again, let's get the memberships. We are 13 memberships away, and I'll tell you, people, I'm willing to match some memberships. So if you guys are able to gift some memberships, I will also return the favor and give some memberships myself. I've got a couple of memberships in my back pocket that I will share to the great universe if you guys can. Again, if you guys just go to the money sign on YouTube, I'm looking at it right now. You hit the money sign, and it's the fourth option down. It is, again, membership gifting. And you can click that button, and then you'll have the ability to give some membership. So I'll do it right now. Here we go. Let's gift 5 memberships. I'm going to throw that in there. Booyah! Boy Green gifted it himself. I don't know if that's a new sound effect somehow I should do, but booyah! Let me throw it out in the universe. Baby, we just gifted 5 memberships right now from me. Tim, Aiken, Philip Hannon, Tony Alvarado, and Dorian. 5 new members. Welcome to the Boy Green Coffee Club. You guys are in. So now that means that math says we're 8 memberships away. Can anyone match my memberships, baby? Feel free to do that, and we can spread the love here on the channel. So I just gifted 5 out. We'll see what else. See, I gifted myself. I didn't even know if that math works, but here we do. We're doing do. All right, let's go to the phone lines. We've got someone adjusting their attire. Let me know when you're ready. This person's like changing their gear. Are you decent, B-Mac? Can I bring you on the show? You were like getting a few buttons going there. What's happening? Okay, there you go.
Hey guys, good morning. Yes, I'm just get myself straight up,
Yeah, not too much skin. Okay, I can appreciate that.
Come on here and make you look bad, Paul.
Oh, I see. That's what you're trying to do. Well, thank you. We appreciate that.
Good morning. Good morning, Nick.
Morning.
Hey, well, first of all, before I get into my questions, I do
real
wanna,
quick, B-Mac.
let you know, Paul, that
1 second.
Yeah,
We have
last,
5
you
more
know,
memberships,
oh.
baby. Uncle Tio said, "Oh, Paul, you bet 5, I raise you 5." Let's shout out to Keith the Change. Let's see who else we got here. Rex Ryan. Wow. Okay. Welcome to the channel, buddy. Welcome back to the NFL. We got Aaron. He's on here. Joey Bad, NY native. You guys are all Boy Green Coffee Club members. I think I got everyone in there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, those are 5 more memberships, baby. So that means we are, if my math is right, we are 3 away from unlocking the Jared B emoji. So, guys, make it rain, baby. We'll see if we can make that happen before the end of the show. Thank you. Anywho, back to you, B-Mac. Sorry, I just get so titillated when these things happen.
All right.
B-Mac?
Yeah.
Yeah.
As far as your Madden skills, Paul, they need some work. They're not really that. I mean, they're not really that great. They're okay.
Did you see the second
you know
game?
What I mean?
Did you see the second game, sir? Okay, I won by 3 touchdowns. What are you talking about?
But your opponent was being nice. You know what I mean? He was like, I'm going to lay down for you.
How
I'm going to
dare
let you take this one just so you can have your little victory.
How dare you try to make me feel bad about my emphatic, unquestioned, undisputed victory in Madden? That's disgusting. Wait, by the way, Nick, are you a Madden guy? Do you dabble in the sticks?
I do. However, it's not the way people think. So I detest the latest Madden games. I've detested it really since Madden 25, the original Madden 25. And I now play retro Madden games. Madden 07. I don't know if you guys know Madden Head Coach, the old coaching game with like Bill Cowher.
Yeah, yeah, that's a deep cut. I like that. Yeah,
that's the only game I essentially play outside of like Hogwarts Legacy and 2K. Ooh. So like, I'm not a big video game guy, but when I do, I play Madden. But I play Madden Head Coach. None of this nonsense of, oh, my player is now completely running sideways on the field. No.
I see.
I do it the right way. Also, really quick, my computer is about to die. So I have my phone ready to go. So I'm just going to jump out, jump back.
Smooth operator, Nick Faria. Okay, he's got all the technology ready. Love it. Okay, beautiful. So we'll have Nick back in a second. But B-Mac, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to ask Nick a question.
Okay, so we'll hang on tight there for just a second. No worries again. So we'll promote this as we're waiting for Nick to pop back in. We are 3 members away, baby. I gave 5 memberships away. Uncle Tio, DeFore11 on New York Sports, gave 5 memberships away. So we're 3 memberships away, baby. We're so close. We're at the goal line. We just need to tush push. We just got to throw it over the top. That's what we need. We're 3 members away from unlocking, gosh darn, Jared B, for Pete's sake. So somebody, for the love of everything that's holy, let's bring him in. And Nick Faria, the quick audible, speaking to coach, he's like, let me make it audible. Let me make a change here. Let me make this happen. And we're going to be switching and swapping. So we love it. But B-Mac, you have a question for Nick Faria, please continue.
Yes,
proceed.
Nick, I do got a question. Now, I think I asked you this before on your live about the top 100 that Rodgers. I mean, again, and I know it doesn't really matter, but a lot of people were talking about it, and there was one player that took a shot at Rodgers, saying that he hasn't played a game, and all of a sudden he's on it.
Jalen Johnson, the Bears corner, said it. Yes.
Yeah. Which whatever. But he said that no. But I just want to ask you that I did I did ask you that how did he got on the list, and it's similar to Peyton Manning in 2012. Peyton Manning was on the list, and he missed the whole year of the 2011 season. And I think you said that the reason they put Rodgers on is similar like why they put Peyton on is the impact. Can you explain that a little bit more and get into depth in that? Because it's interesting that he hasn't played and he's on the list.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. When Peyton Manning was out for the 2011 season, what was the record for the Indianapolis Colts?
2-14.
2-14, 1-15, whatever it was. Yeah. And where were they before that? What were they doing? They were a playoff team. They had competed for the South. I believe they won the South that year. But correct me if I'm wrong. But again, they were in competition and they were in the playoffs. They were contending for a playoff spot. 2 years before that, they were in the Super Bowl. So the impact of Manning was clearly felt that he wasn't there, and the team not just was bad, but was one of the worst teams in NFL history. With Rodgers, the Jets went 7-10 the year before, and they have a very talented roster. And I think we all can agree that if Rodgers was actually healthy last season, the Jets are a playoff team. Yes? Right. Objectively, like they can beat the Falcons, they can beat the Patriots. That's already 2 losses that turned to wins. Now you're looking at 9 wins. Can they beat the Cowboys, who Aaron Rodgers has owned for a decade and a half? Obviously. Now we're talking 10 wins. And so you see the math, it just kind of just eases up a little bit for you if you're a Jets fan with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. And he wasn't there. And his impact was also felt because Zach Wilson is not an NFL starting quarterback. He's a backup at best. And when backups play more than 3 games at a time, it really looks ugly at later on in the season. And that's exactly what happened. So I look at where Rodgers is right now. And yes, he may not be a top 10 quarterback just coming off of his Achilles injury. I think he has to prove a little bit more. But at the same time, he's still worthy of being a top 100 player because his impact is more than most other non-quarterbacks in the game.
And then I got one more question. As far as Haason Reddick thing, if this thing gets drawn out, like let's say, check my calendar. So we in August 7th. If this thing gets, if 2 weeks from now, August 21st, if this thing gets drawn out and he's not there, how long can we really look at this situation and go, okay, now it's starting to get googly?
When he misses a game, then you be concerned. It's just not
like a preseason game or a regular season game, just to clarify.
Regular season game. When he misses a regular season game, then you get concerned because he can't afford to miss a regular season game. He cannot. Because if he misses games and loses production, that's $5-10 million that he could get in free agency next year. He has to show up because the leverage would all be lost by that point. So when I look at a guy like Reddick, he used his leverage. He didn't show up to training camp at the beginning. But now that they haven't come to an agreement, now he's losing that leverage. And he's essentially lost it the more he sits out because he's losing out on millions of dollars now. So to me, where the Jets are, they just have to sit pretty and wait for Reddick to actually, I guess, take it seriously in a way where to say, hey, you come to us and then we'll come to an agreement. That's kind of where we're at right now.
All right, hang on tight, B-Mac, because finally the gods have answered our call. They have answered our call, and it is this. Let's highlight all these wonderful individuals because we've pushed the chips into the middle of the table. Shout out here, first off, to Jared B. himself, aiding in these efforts. 615, you're a member of the Boy Green Coffee Club. Okay, let's switch. I'm doing a lot of button pressing here. Here we go. Now we got Dick Chimney Burner. He gifted a membership, and we give that to Nick Russo. You are now a member of the Boy Green Coffee Club. And finally, okay, here we go. 411 on New York Sports. All right, and then I go back to here. Good Lord, I need like a secretary here. Paul Niels, you are now a member of the Boy Green Coffee Club. Okay, and button here, and here it is. This is the brand new Jared B emoji on your screen. Wow, that is luck. Thank you to Snowball for this creation. That is available for you guys to light up the chat. The Jared B emoji has just been unlocked. It is wow, I'm going to have to talk to my therapist after seeing this, but either way, Jared B., congratulations. You are now immortalized forever in the Jared B. emoji, which is so available. There you go. You guys go crazy with it. So let's get after all that wonderful suspense. See, I just built the, we're getting ready for the climax scene here for you, B-Mac, on your question. Go.
Yeah. Well, this, I mean, those were the 2 questions I have to ask. So,
well,
I will let y'all continue. Thank y'all, and
yeah. God bless. Okay, thank you to BMAC for joining us on the show. Always interesting, certainly. All right, we've got another caller in here, and he's lighting it up, baby. Ricky, New York Live. It feels, I almost want to just like light one up right now and then put it out on my arm because I'm just so excited.
Oh, don't do that.
Okay, I won't. What's up, brother?
How's it going? How's it going, Nick?
How's it
Your favorite caller doesn't only call into Jake's show. I call into here too. You would have been proud of me yesterday, Nick. I gave Paul a lesson in all things AJ Brown.
He did. He went to town. Yeah.
AJ Brown, great guy.
Yeah, it was a good time. You know what? I don't know if I've ever asked you this. Are you actually in Philly?
No, I'm in New York. So I live in Bayside, about an hour and a half from the Jets facility. But I grew up an Eagles fan, so it's kind of like I'm not changing that, but I'll be objective and everywhere else when it comes to that.
Wow, so quick follow-up. So every Jets practice, you have to drive an hour and a half to practice, go do all your work, and then drive an hour and a half back?
Essentially, my back is destroyed.
I see.
It's where it's at right now. It's
good Lord.
I drive a small car, so it doesn't really help either. It's a lovely time to be alive with lower
trooper. Wow. Okay.
Okay. I just had to ask because like a lot of times I had my takes all ready to go, and then through other callers and comments in the chat, I got completely derailed and it went off in a different direction. This morning it was the Jared emoji, and a really surreal picture. I'm gonna pretend that I'm an insider and not get too specific. I don't want to get Paul in trouble with this description.
Oh God!
But everybody knows what an inflatable person looks like. Well, my friend, the absolute legend, Crazy Philadelphia Eddie, and yes, that really is his name, who owned five shops all over Philadelphia before he passed away. Came to a after party in Richmond one year with an inflatable sheep attached to his suspender. And seeing Jared with that sheep in front of him, it just brought back the memory of that. Yeah.
Oh wow, that is vivid. That is vivid. Wow.
Yeah, you know what? And Eddie was famous for wearing this bright yellow blazer that he always wore too, and had like his hair up like a greaser.
Sure.
It was quite the visual. Let's just say that.
You have provided it. My blank canvas in my brain was just painted, and that was on it. Wow.
At any rate, I used to go up and hang out in Philly with those guys, and worked at the South Street shop, and had a good time with Eddie and Troy and all those guys. It had some good times there. At any rate, that's enough Philly stuff. This is a Jets show. Let's get back to Jets business.
Yes.
Without being too specific and getting yourself in trouble, Nick, Gibson was back, which, you know what? I everything that I heard, he was doing so well prior to the injury. It sounded like he had really taken a step. So I'm glad to hear that he's back. And you know what? I meant to bring this up yesterday, Paul, and I didn't. Everybody keeps talking. Well, I've said it before. We need Reddick to be here. Okay. Everybody keeps saying, is Will McDonald going to take this big step like Jermaine did? No, Jermaine took that big step because he's Jermaine Johnson. Okay. Not everybody is Jermaine Johnson. And I've got an analogy for you. Okay. Especially for the older people in the audience will know what I'm talking about. Like the old, mean grandma picks up a twig and strips the leaves off of it and makes herself a switch and is going to give you a switching. God bless Will McDonald with his thinner frame. He's like the switch. And Jermaine is like that club from Walking Tall. Both can give you a whooping, but it's a different degree of whooping. And, that's my analogy for that. McDonald probably give you a whooping, but it ain't a Jermaine Johnson level whooping. That's how we make them down here at Florida State.
Wow. Okay. Has that been your observations, Nick, at practice? Have you gotten the switch in the club on defense?
It's two totally different players. I will say yesterday was probably McDonald's best day pass rushing. He blew by Morgan Moses, and I mean within a second and a half, he was in the backfield and would have sacked Rodgers. So people are worried about the frame. I'm not one of them. I've seen undersized edge rushers put out 10, 15 sack seasons like it's nothing because they use their speed and they're used deliberately in games. And when you have a deep defensive line like the Jets do, why would you put Will McDonald on the field 70% of the time when you can switch him with Michael Clemens on obvious rundowns? And Clemens has looked really good against the run. So it doesn't make sense to me for people to demand that McDonald play first round money, because first round edge rushers don't normally play that kind of way. It's not how they do things. I look at Brandon Graham as a perfect example. He was drafted in the first round, I think like 13th overall. And the Eagles were all in on Graham. They wanted an extra pass rusher, all that. And it took them 6 years for him to figure out that he was actually a good edge rusher who could play both the run and get after the quarterback, but he couldn't play 70% of the snaps. So what they did was they dialed back. They brought in Chris Long. They brought in a bunch of different guys. And then he put forth an all-pro season in 2017. He put up another one in 18. So when I look at where the Eagles are and look at where the Eagles were with Brandon Graham, yeah, Graham is not the same size as McDonald. But if the player is giving you a certain look and a player's skill set is that he can rush the passer relentlessly, that's not a knock on them. You, the coaching staff, have to figure it out. And that's where we're at right now. And it seems like the coaching staff knows that. And I've said this before, and I'll say this again. Can we please, for the love of God, give the Jets defensive staff a break with Will McDonald? Because they have shown consistently that they can make late round picks look really damn good. Really damn good. What do you think they're going to do with a first round edge rusher? Like, history dictates we should be able to give this coaching staff some slack on McDonald, whether it happens this year, whether it happens in year 3. That really is irrelevant, because to me, this Jets defense is still an elite one. It's going to be an elite one. And worrying about what happens with McDonald is stupid when this coaching staff has shown that they'll be perfectly fine with or without him.
Absolutely. And by the way, Nick's talking to all you other people, not me.
Yeah.
I said McDonald will give you a whooping, just that Jermaine will give you a bigger one.
Yeah.
As you Philly guy, I should have known you were going to go with the old Brandon Graham.
Good reference.
Hey, you know what? That's one of my favorite sneaky peeks and sneaky picks in fantasy every year. And God bless him, man. That guy just keeps going and going. He's played
This
forever.
is last year. He just announced it, I heard.
Oh,
yeah.
Did he? Oh,
yeah, he's going to do a farewell tour, basically, this 2024 season. Yeah.
Wow, yeah.
Too sad.
Man, I was about to say, he just keeps going and going forever and keeps putting up the production. Really good, solid player you guys got there.
Yeah.
And speaking of fantasy football,
sure.
I didn't even make this connection until just now while I was on hold waiting to call in. But for the first time in years, I'm actually going to change the name of my fantasy team this year.
Okay.
For those of you who don't know, Tio knows because he actually won the championship in my league last year. Only the second first time owner to win a championship in my league in 29 years or whatever it's been of the league being going.
That's awesome.
But at any rate, the name of my team is One-Legged Man, and it's named that for Aaron Rodgers. However, I named the team that for Aaron Rodgers a few years ago. because I've got a buddy who's a Bears fan, and he's a really good friend of mine. But like when games are going on, like he never calls me and says, "Hey, congratulations, the Jets won." He like texted me when Brees got hurt and went, "Ooh, that's not good." But yeah, no shit.
What a dick.
You know, it's always it always seems like he's like rubbing it in or something. And he gave me a text like that. I don't remember the exact situation that happened with the Jets that day. Maybe it was just a loss or something.
Sure.
But then later that night, the Packers and the Bears were playing, and Aaron Rodgers got hurt, and he limped off the field badly. But then he comes back in the game limping.
I remember that
the end of the game and just carved them up. And so I texted him back and said, well, at least my team didn't lose an ass kicking contest to a one-legged man. And that's where the name came from. And I just thought about it. I was like, God, I named my team One-Legged Man, and then we get Aaron Rodgers
and he gets hurt.
Wow.
So it's all your fault. So it's all your fault, is basically what you're saying. You're completely to blame.
My bad luck is so bad. I wouldn't put it if it was my fault. But at any rate, I just, for whatever reason, I never even made the connection with Rodgers being hurt in New York until just now when I was on hold and I thought about it and I was like, you know what? That's some bad karma. Like that shit's got to go. I've got to change that for this.
Please do.
Know,
yes.
Yeah, like, dude, Paul, my luck is so bad that the year that Mike White was here, I decided players always ball out against their old team. So I'm going to wear the jersey of the players when they play their team. And Mosley did not have a good game versus Baltimore to start the year. Conklin had an abysmal game when we played Minnesota. I mean, all year it was terrible. And like, I'm talking to Jake about it one day and I was like, and it's by the end of the year. And I was like, God, we've lost every damn game. And this is not the way things go when guys play their former team. I was like, I'm so nervous. Like, I don't know if I'm going to wear my DJ Reed this weekend when we play Seattle. And Jake was like, oh God, please don't. And so I didn't. I wore a different jersey. It still ended up great mattering for that game. But like there was a point in 2022 where I felt like I was jinxing us, and so I stopped wearing the jersey of the player.
Thank you for doing that. We appreciate that.
You know, I think it was too late by then. But I mean, we had Zach Wilson. That's the ultimate. You know, flat tire. At any rate, one last thing for Nick, and I'll jump off of here. I know you can't get too specific, but I brought this up before. Boyer was supposedly pounding his table for Isaiah Davis during the draft. And then last week on a Saturday, I guess I finally heard some people saying that Davis was out there returning kicks. I brought this up like when I was, studying what those kicks looked like from the other league. The first one that I watched was a touchdown, and it was a running back, and he reminded me kind of Davis, and I could just really picture him in that role. So I want to know, have you seen him returning some kicks? And without going into too much detail, how's he look doing that? And that'll be my last question.
He's part of the army of kick returners, as Boyer described it. So it's him. It's a bunch of other guys. I think the retirement of Tariq Cohen really opens up that possibility for him going into the regular season, because if Cohen was still here, I think he's the starting kick returner right away, because he looked like his older self when he was an All-Pro. So Davis is getting looks. A couple other guys are getting looks. I don't want to go through the whole list because I don't want to get in trouble, but it seems like this is a work in progress for the Jets entirely, where they're testing it out here and there. They're testing it out one practice, they're testing it out another. They're going through different standards of what needs to be looked at for these kinds of returns, and making sure that you follow the rules for each one. So it's a work in progress, but Davis is certainly in consideration for that.
All right. Thanks for the call, Ricky.
Awesome. Yeah, I know. It was kind of all over the place. You know, I went from special teams to a one-legged man in an ass-kicking contest to all things Philly to
And a sheep
an inflatable
costume.
sheep.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
I know it was
colorful.
all over the place, but hopefully it all kind of came together in the end there. But all right, man, you guys have a great day.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Ricky. Yeah. Yes. Well, I will, again, another therapy session that will cost me a great deal of money, but we'll try to do what I can. We have one more caller here. It's FL Phil 98 gracing us with his presence. What's up, buddy?
Good morning, Paul. Good morning, Nick.
Morning.
Morning.
I always enjoy you guys every Wednesday. I look forward to it. Nick, I wanted your take. You already talked about Reddick a little bit, but Paul made a prediction about how this is going to turn out. You guys talked time frame a little bit. All right. My question to you is, I understand the Jets have the leverage. We've talked about this ad nauseum. They can sit back and wait. He's got to come in. That's going to happen. All right. He's going to play football for the New York Jets this year because at some point he has to. My question to you is, would it be a bad thing if the Jets were to offer him a team-friendly 3-year deal? So we all know he's looking for roughly 3 years, $75 million. Okay. Let me ask you, Nick. I already asked Paul. What would Reddick be worth right now if he was a free agent?
That's probably one of the hardest questions to answer because production isn't the only thing that teams look at when it comes to him. You look at his numbers right now, one of only 2 defensive players in the NFL to record 10 or more sacks in each of the last 4 seasons. The only other guy is Myles Garrett, and he just won Defensive Player of the Year. So his level of consistency is off the charts. We know this. 3 different teams, 10-plus sacks each time he's with teams. The problem is when he was 26, he didn't get the long-term mega extension that he probably would have gotten, if he was T.J. Watt or Garrett or Micah Parsons, these kind of guys. So now he's 29. And 29-year-old edge rushers are not exactly making, big bucks any way you want to look at it. So the difficult part with Reddick is determining that overall market because teams have always looked at him and always have seemed to undervalue him. And that's why I say this Jets holdout isn't necessarily on Haason Reddick in the first place. He is a guy that has been undervalued, who's been disrespected time and time again. Remember, he put out 11 sacks for the Arizona Cardinals his final year there. And when he hit free agency, people could have said that, he'll get 10 million, 15 million, something like that. And he got 1 year and 6 million with the Carolina Panthers. He goes out to Philadelphia, gets 3 years, 45 million. So he has been disrespected. And to a point, I actually understand completely why he is sad. Because he's just sick of it. He's sick of every team telling him, yeah, you're a great pass rusher, but, you play too much. Your efficiency grades aren't exactly elite. And we have some concerns about you in the run game where it's fine, but it's not elite. So you're not one of the elite guys. We'll pay you $18 million a year. And he doesn't want that anymore. So I think the sweet spot, if I were to venture a guess to say a sweet spot, it's probably in the 23.5 $28 million range where maybe Reddick cuts down on the 25 million he's asking for and says, okay, just give me 23.5. Maybe the Jets or a free agent says, okay, 27 million and you're going to be our lead pass rusher and help this team out and win a Super Bowl, kind of like what the Bills did with Von Miller. But it's hard to tell because with every team disrespecting him, it's really hard to see a franchise that actually will pay him the worth that he's available for. Because again, Phil, you agree with this. You think of the top pass rushers in the NFL right now that sack the quarterback, get after the quarterback and sack the quarterback. Reddick is at least in the top 5 conversation. He's not top 15. He's not 20 like he's being paid right now. He's one of the best. And no team really wants to pay that regardless of those sack numbers.
Okay, so for all the people who keep calling in, Paul, and saying, I'm the crazy guy who wants to give everybody $100 million.
Yeah.
Okay, I talked about one player, and I talked about a team-friendly deal in the low 20s. I said that I understood why he was holding out, and I didn't blame him. So I guess Nick is a crazy guy who wants to give everybody $100 million too.
The thing that I look at with Reddick is there are 5 positions, and I've said this before times. There are 5 positions where you need all-pro talent to win a Super Bowl. Every single one of them. You need a quarterback, a wide receiver, a left tackle, a top corner, and an edge rusher. The Jets don't have that top edge rusher right now. I think they can become it. Will McDonald, Jermaine Johnson, these guys they can develop into them. But Haason Reddick is that guy when he walks into the building. He's just automatically there. And he's automatically there for almost every team that he joins. The fact of the matter is you have to pay these guys. Like, Jet fans, personally, I feel it's hypocritical to look at and blame the player when Darrelle Revis, this situation happened already. And it happened a decade ago where they just refused to pay him his worth as the best cornerback in football, and they let him walk in free agency. And everyone was saying, oh, well, this is the Jets' fault. They didn't pay him. And the only difference between Revis and Reddick is the fact that Revis is homegrown talent, and Reddick is the guy they're trying to bring in to get this done. At some point, it's not the player's fault for trying to get his worth. You only have an elite run in the NFL for so long. And if you're one of those 0.001% of players who are the elite, you need to get your money, and you need to get as much money as you possibly can. So Reddick finally saying enough is enough. It's not blaming him. It's blaming the Jets for making the trade and not giving him that money in the first place.
Well, thank you very much, Nick, because I've brought this subject up a few times, and pretty much everything you just said is exactly what I've been saying. And people call up and call me a union rep that wants to give everybody $100 million. It's crazy. And I never understood why the fans are always on the side of the billionaires. You got maybe a couple of hundred guys in the entire world good enough to be at this level.
Phil, I'll answer that question for you right away. You want to know why they side with the team? If Aaron Rodgers were to leave the Jets right now, are you still a Jets fan?
Yes.
If Joe Namath retires, you still a Jets fan?
Yes.
We root for cloth. We root for the cloth of the franchise and want to see our franchise do well. And any player that comes in or out must adhere to the cloth. And that's the problem.
I disagree, because it could be a guy who's holding out for another team, and they still say, that guy's an asshole. That guy, the money these guys are making is ridiculous. Now, you just brought up, top pass rusher, $30 million. You guys were talking before about Aiyuk, right? It's not about the $30 million. It's, is it the right move for the team? Okay. This is my point. The other day I brought up, hey, quarterbacks are broaching $60 million. Top pass rushers are broaching $30 million. Top wide receivers are $30 million. You got to pay your left tackle. Okay. Everybody seems to always get angry about, the money these guys are making is ridiculous. That's always seems to be the fan perspective. And I don't get it. Listen, and you hear people say all the time, I would kill for $1 million. Yeah, okay, but you're not an elite NFL player. I'm sorry, but good God, I'm just talking reality here, guys. I'm just trying to be real. And lastly, on Reddick, I've been saying it from the beginning of the holdout. If the Jets want to play hardball, they can. And if they do, he'll play for them this year, and he'll lose whatever he lost with his holdout. He's looking at that as, if I lose $2 or $3 million, then it was the only card I had to play. I think we just lost Nick, but
yeah, I think when he's on his phone, there's a chance he could get texts or calls or things which disrupt the flow. But go ahead, Phil.
But yeah, so if they want to play hardball, he's going to play, right? If they give him $5 million in incentives and he hits those incentives, he gets all of that money back and maybe then some. All right. Yeah. So it's ultimately going to work out. There's no question. It's ultimately going to work out. The issue is, would it be a bad thing to offer him a team-friendly deal? And this is where the specifics come in. You said earlier that they can't or won't extend him. They don't have the money or the cap space or whatever. They can always make cap space. and they can always put, something on the back end that protects them in some way. All right. So if it's, a third year where it's a dead cap hit of, 10 million, if they cut him or something, with a 3-year deal that's worth 75 on paper, but is really 65 or so. If after 2 years they want to move on and they have a $10 million cap hit, we went through this the other day. We got an $11 million cap hit or something on bums right now this year. Would that be a bad thing? I'm saying, if you want the guy, you traded for him. We understand why he's holding out. Okay. Whether you want to go as far as to say we need him, I mean, I think we do. You can argue about that. All right. But would it be a bad thing to sign the guy to a 3-year deal for the neighborhood of 20 to 25 million? I don't think so.
No, because of the Aaron Rodgers window. We all believe, and Aaron Rodgers continues to reiterate, that it's at least 2 years of this 2024 season and 2025, because it was just brought up because with Judah Batista at the NFL Network Back Together weekend, he said, I think I still got 2 more good years in me. And they did an interview after that, said, 2 more years. He's like, well, who knows? He said, if I'm feeling good, I want to play more. So even then, so to your point, to cover this window of winning, which we are hoping is for this multiple year pack, getting Reddick at one of those premium positions that Nick Faria just said are incredibly important to having a chance to win a Super Bowl. No, I don't think it would be the worst thing in the world if Reddick gets it from that perspective.
So Nick, you were off for a minute. I just want to ask you straight out. A 3-year, $75 million deal with $65 million guaranteed and a dead cap hit in the third year of roughly $10 million. Would you sign that deal right now?
I would, but I'm also looking for full-time employment. So I think with Reddick, he'll want a little more. He'll want a little more security. And that's knowing Reddick for where he was in Philadelphia and what he wanted to do. I think he wants a longer-term commitment. And that's where the issue is, because teams aren't going to give that to him, but also he's worthy of asking for it because Von Miller got 5 years, $100 million. So he's probably looking at Miller and saying, no, I've been more consistent than him in the last 4 years. Give me my money and that kind of thing. So there's kind of a point where Reddick probably is going to have to lower the price tag, right or wrong. He's probably going to have to lower it regardless. But at the same time, the best way I put it is this. Jet fans, if you are in a position where the Jets win the Super Bowl this year and then wait back-to-back Super Bowls this year and next year with Rodgers at quarterback by paying Haason Reddick $30 million in these next 2 years, and he makes huge plays, but then the next 3 years you're in cap hell. Put it this way. The next 7 years you're in cap hell, can't sign anyone, and you can only keep the likes of Garrett Wilson, Sauce Gardner, and Jermaine Johnson. Breece Hall goes, Michael Carter goes. You're essentially rebuilding from scratch. Wouldn't the back-to-back titles be worth it?
Sure. Of course.
Wouldn't that be the point of why you're doing this? So
right, but just to be clear, though, Haason Reddick wouldn't be the reason you're in cap hell. That one guy wouldn't be the reason you're in cap hell.
You got to lower the number because you got about 50, 60 million next year in cap space in 2025. That's a projection. Obviously, there's moves you can make to include that closer up to 70 million, but then you have to re-sign everyone. And if you're giving Reddick, 15, 17 million, maybe even 20 million a year, that's a significant charge coming off that space. So maybe that means you don't re-sign Breece. Maybe that doesn't mean you don't sign Michael Carter, whoever it is. You're gonna have to, if you're going to invest and go all in, that means in the future you're gonna be saying, okay, well, we're gonna have to say goodbye to this player eventually.
All right, 2 things here real quick. Phil, you're one of my favorite callers of all time, so I love you. So keep calling in and F the haters. You can add whatever extra headline you choose to do. That's terrific. I have to run to the radio show, or I'd love to continue this debate even further. So, Phil, first off, thank you so much for calling in, buddy.
Thank you, Paul. Thanks, Nick.
I appreciate it. And Nick Faria, thank you so much for powering through all the life stuff you had going on. It means a lot. And just like Phil, there's plenty of people that look forward to you joining our show every single week. So thanks, pal. I appreciate you.
Definitely. Appreciate it, man.
All right, we'll see you next week. And thank you to everybody for joining Boy Green Daily today. Thank you for all the new members. Make sure you guys like the video, hit subscribe. We'll be back tomorrow morning live at 7:30 in the morning. Hopefully you guys can check us out. Thank you. Happy birthday, Jared B. Feel better. God bless America.